The Valkyrie had been hunting across the stars for 3,000 years. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were black like deep water. They moved through the galaxy like shadows, taking what they wanted. And what they wanted most was slaves. Their ships visited 1,000 worlds. They studied each species carefully. They learned which ones were strong and which ones were weak. They learned which ones would fight and which ones would break. The weak ones filled their markets. The broken ones made the best servants. Commander Thelvok stood on the bridge of his harvester ship and watched the blue planet spinning slowly below. His officers had spent 6 cycles studying this world. They called it Earth. "Report," Thelvok said. His voice was like stones grinding together. "A young civilization," his science officer replied. "They have basic spaceflight but cannot leave their own system. No energy shields. No particle weapons. Their bodies are soft. They require constant water and food. They sleep for 1/3 of their lives." Thelvok made a sound of approval. "Weaknesses?" "Many, Commander. They are emotional creatures. They form strong bonds with each other. When separated from their groups, they experience deep distress. They are easy to frighten, easy to control. Good. Select a target." The science officer touched the viewing screen. The image zoomed down through clouds and atmosphere until it showed a mountain range covered in green trees. A single road cut through the forest. And on that road, walking alone, was a small figure. "This one," the science officer said. "Female, young adult. She is alone and far from any settlement. Her body language suggests emotional distress. She will be simple to acquire and simple to break." Thelvok studied the image. The human female was small. Her black hair was tied back from her face. She wore simple clothing meant for walking. She carried no weapons. As he watched, she stopped on the path and wiped her eyes with her hands. "She weeps," Thelvok observed. "Already broken before we take her. Excellent. Begin acquisition." Far below, Park Yuna walked through the mountains of Gangwon Province as the sun began to set. The autumn air was cool on her face. The trees around her were turning gold and red. It was beautiful, but she could not see the beauty today. 3 days ago, her dog had died. His name was Bomi. He had been with her for 15 years, since she was a child. He had slept at the foot of her bed every night. He had waited by the door every evening when she came home from work. And now he was gone, and the apartment felt empty, and she could not stop crying. She had come to the mountains because she needed to walk. She needed to move. She needed to feel her legs burning and her lungs working. This was how she had always handled pain. Not by sitting still, but by moving forward. Her grandmother had taught her this. Her grandmother, who had survived the war when she was a little girl. Who had walked south through the snow with nothing but the clothes on her back. Who had buried her parents and kept walking. Who had built a new life from nothing. When the world hurts you, her grandmother used to say, you do not lie down. You walk. You keep walking until you are strong enough to run. Yuna wiped her eyes again and kept walking. She did not see the light above her until it was too late. It came down from the sky like a pillar of blue fire. It surrounded her completely. She felt her body become light. Her feet left the ground. She looked down and saw the mountain path falling away beneath her. Any other species might have screamed. The Valkyrie had seen it 1,000 times. The terror, the panic, the complete collapse of the mind when a creature realized it was being taken from everything it knew. Yuna did not scream. She felt fear, yes. Her heart was beating fast. Her hands were shaking. But underneath the fear was something else. Something that her grandmother had planted in her blood. Something that the Valkyrie had never encountered before. It was anger. As she rose through the clouds, Yuna watched the earth grow smaller below her. She saw the curve of the horizon. She saw the darkness of space opening above her. She saw the massive shape of the alien ship waiting for her like the mouth of some great beast. And she thought, I was not finished crying for my dog. You interrupted me. I will make you regret that. The being pulled her into the ship through a round opening in its belly. She passed through layers of metal and machinery. Strange lights flickered around her. The air smelled wrong, like copper and something sweet and rotten. Then the beam released her, and she fell. She hit the floor of a small room and rolled. Her body knew what to do. 15 years of taekwondo had trained her muscles to react without thinking. She came up in a crouch, hands raised, eyes scanning. The room was a cell. The walls were smooth gray metal. A faint light came from the ceiling. And she was not alone. Other creatures filled the cell with her. Some were tall and thin with skin like glass. She could see their organs moving inside them. Some were covered in brown fur with large wet eyes. Some had too many legs. Some had no legs at all. They were all afraid. She could see it in the way they pressed against the walls. She could hear it in the strange sounds they made. Whatever language they spoke, fear sounded the same in every tongue. Yuna stood up slowly. She looked around the cell. She counted the other prisoners, 11. She looked at the door. Solid metal, no handle on the inside. She looked at the ceiling. The light came from a panel that might be removable. She was breathing normally now. Her heart had slowed. The fear was still there, but she had put it in a small box in the back of her mind. She would open that box later when she had time. Right now, she had work to do. A creature made of brown fur approached her. It was twice her size, but it moved like a scared child. You, it said. The words came out strange, but she understood them somehow. Maybe the aliens had done something to her. You are new. You are small. Are you afraid? Yuna looked at the creature. Then she looked at the door. No, she said. I am thinking. Thinking about what? Yuna sat down cross-legged in the center of the cell. She closed her eyes. She began to breathe slowly and deeply, the way her grandmother had taught her. I am thinking, she said, about how to get out of here, and what I will do to them when I do. The creature stared at her with its large, wet eyes. It did not understand. How could something so small be so calm? How could something so weak speak of fighting back? It would learn. They would all learn. On Earth, the weak did not survive. On Earth, even the small ones had teeth. Part 2. The assessment Develthery watched their prisoners through hidden cameras in the walls. They had done this for 3,000 years. They knew how to read fear. They knew how to measure the breaking point of any creature. Observer, Kethamel sat in the monitoring room and made notes on his screen. The new batch of prisoners was performing as expected. The glass-skinned beings from the Veloci system wept in the corners. They were a peaceful species, artists and poets, never touched by war. They would break within 2 days. The furred creatures from Mole 7 huddled together and shook. They came from a gentle world of endless forests where nothing hunted them. They had evolved no defenses. They would break within 3 days, but the human female was different. Kethamel watched her sit in the center of the cell with her eyes closed. Her breathing was slow and steady. Her heart rate, which the sensors tracked through the floor, was calm. She showed none of the signs he expected. Strange, he muttered to himself. He made a note. Human female displaying unusual calm. Possible shock response. Continue monitoring. Hours passed. The other prisoners grew more afraid. Some cried. Some screamed. Some beat their hands against the walls until they bled. The human female sat still. She opened her eyes only to watch the door when guards walked past. She counted under her breath. She studied the movements of everyone around her. Kethnal began to feel uneasy. Though he did not know why. Inside the cell, Yuna had learned much. The guards came every 4 hours. They always approached from the left. They carried weapons that looked like long black sticks with a glowing tip. The doors opened with a sliding motion that took exactly 2 seconds. She had also learned about her fellow prisoners. The furred creature was named Mole. It came from a world where violence was unknown. It had been a singer, someone who created beautiful sounds for others to enjoy. It had never seen death. It had never felt pain. "Why do you sit so still?" Mole asked her. "Are you not afraid?" "I am afraid," Yuna admitted. "But fear is just a feeling. It cannot control me unless I let it." "How do you stop it from controlling you?" Yuna thought about this. On her world, children were taught from a young age to face their fears. They climbed mountains. They swam in cold water. They fought each other in training halls, learning to take hits and keep standing. They were taught that pain was temporary. That fear was a teacher, not a master. "On my world," she said, "we practice being afraid. We do things that scare us on purpose, again and again, until the fear becomes small." Mole's large eyes grew even larger. "You seek out fear? Why would any creature do this?" "Because fear makes you weak. And weakness kills you." Mole did not understand. Its world had no predators, no wars, no natural disasters. It had never needed to be strong because nothing had ever tried to hurt it. Yuna felt sorry for Mole. She also knew that she could not protect this creature forever. But she could try. The door slid open. A Velthari guard stepped into the cell. It was tall, almost 3 meters, with gray skin stretched over sharp bones. Its forearms held a weapon and a container of thick paste. Food, Yuna realized. They were being fed like animals. The guard moved through the cell, dropping portions of paste in front of each prisoner. Most of them scrambled back in terror. The guards seemed to enjoy their fear. It made a sound that might have been laughter. Then it reached Yuna. She did not move. She looked up at the guard with steady eyes. The guard paused. For a moment, something passed between them. The guard was confused. This small creature was not afraid. Why was it not afraid? The guard dropped the paste and turned away. Yuna moved. She had studied the guard's body for hours. Through the camera window in the door, she knew where the joints were. She knew which parts moved and which parts stayed still. She knew, from a lifetime of martial arts training, that every creature had weak points. You just had to find them. Her hand shot out and grabbed the guard's lowest arm. She twisted hard, using her whole body weight. The arm bent the wrong way. The guard screamed. The weapon fell from its grip. Yuna caught it before it hit the floor. The guard swung its other arms at her. She ducked. She had been hit many times in her life, in training halls and competitions. She knew how to move around strikes. She knew how to find openings. She jammed the weapon against the guard's chest and squeezed what she hoped was the trigger. Light flashed. The guard flew backward and hit the wall. It did not get up. The whole thing had taken 4 seconds. Yuna stood over the fallen guard, breathing hard. The weapon felt strange in her hands. It was warm and hummed slightly. She turned it over, studying it. The design was different from human weapons, but the basic idea was the same. Point at enemy. Squeeze trigger. Enemy falls down. She had fired her first gun when she was 12. Her father had taken her to a shooting range. Everyone should know how to defend themselves, he had said. The world is not always kind. The other prisoners stared at her in shock. Mole's mouth hung open. How did you do that? It whispered. I have been training since I was a child, Una said. She picked up the guard's second weapon and examined it. Same design, good. Everyone on my world trains. We fight each other for sport. We spend years learning how to hurt and how to avoid being hurt. Your world sounds terrible. Una smiled. It was not a happy smile. My world is beautiful, she said. But it is also hard. It has storms that flatten cities. It has ground that shakes and swallows buildings. It has diseases that kill millions. It has animals with claws and teeth that hunt in the dark. And we have each other, always fighting, always competing, always pushing to be stronger. She walked to the door and looked at the control panel beside it. My people have a saying, she said. What does not kill you makes you stronger. Do you know what that means? Mole shook its head. It means that on my world, only the strong survive. Everyone you meet, every human, is the child of survivors. We are all descended from people who refuse to die. She touched the control panel. It beeped. Our captors think we are weak because we are small, because we have no claws, because we die easily. But they do not understand. The door slid open. Una looked back at the cell full of prisoners. 11 creatures from 11 worlds, all of them scared, all of them waiting to be saved. We die easily, she said. So we learn how to kill more easily. She stepped through the door, weapons raised. The hunt had begun. But the Valkyrie had made a mistake about who was the hunter and who was the prey. Part 3. The revelation alarms screamed through the harvester ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Commander Thelvok stood on the bridge and watched his crew scramble like insects. Report, he demanded. What is happening? A prisoner has escaped, Commander. The officer's voice was shaking. The human female. She has disabled 2 guards and taken their weapons. Thelvog almost laughed. Almost one prisoner? One small, soft creature with no armor and no training? Send 4 guards. And this. He turned back to his command chair. This was a minor problem. Prisoners sometimes fought back in the first hours after capture. It never lasted. The ship was vast and complex. The guards were armed and numerous. The prisoner would be found, punished, and broken. 10 minutes later, the officer spoke again. Commander, the 4 guards are down. The human female has taken their weapons as well. Thelvok froze. 4 guards? She ambushed them in the maintenance corridor. She used the pipes for cover. She moved very fast, Commander. The cameras could barely track her. Now Thelvok felt something he had not felt in many years. A small seed of doubt. He walked to the viewing screens and called up the security footage. He watched the human female move through his ship like water through cracks in stone. She did not run in straight lines. She used every shadow, every corner, every piece of machinery as cover. When guards appeared, she did not hide. She attacked first, fast and hard, striking at joints and soft places with terrible precision. Where did she learn to do this? Thelvok whispered. His science officer hurried to his side. Its 4 hands were shaking as it pulled up data on the viewing screen. Commander, I have reviewed the Earth files more closely. I believe we made an error. A serious error. Explain. We noted that humans have no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no armor. We assumed this meant they were prey animals, gentle creatures who survived by hiding. But the data shows something different. The screen filled with images from Earth. Thelvok saw humans running across open ground, chasing animals 10 times their size. He saw them climbing mountains of ice with nothing but their bare hands and simple tools. He saw them diving into deep water, swimming with creatures that could swallow them whole. They are predators, Commander. Persistent predators. They do not kill with strength. They kill with endurance. They chase their prey for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapses from exhaustion. Then they kill it. Thalvok stared at the images. No creature can run for days. Humans can. Their bodies are designed for it. They sweat to cool themselves. Their legs are built for efficiency. They can travel distances that would kill any other land animal. More images appeared. Humans fighting each other with bare hands. Humans swinging weapons at each other in arenas while crowds cheered. Humans shooting projectiles at targets, at animals, at each other. They are also extremely violent, Commander. They have been at war with themselves for their entire history. They have developed weapons that can destroy cities in a single flash. They train their young to fight from childhood. They consider combat to be entertainment. Thalvok felt the seed of doubt grow into something larger. Something colder. The female we captured, he said slowly. She was crying. She appeared weak. She was mourning, Commander. Her companion animal had died. But mourning and weakness are not the same thing. Humans form deep bonds. When those bonds are broken, they feel great pain. But that pain does not break them. It makes them dangerous. On the screen, they watched Yuna disable another guard. She moved with calm efficiency. No wasted motion. No hesitation. She took the guard's weapon, checked it, and kept moving. She's not panicking, Thalvok observed. She is thinking, planning. Yes, Commander. Humans are also extremely intelligent. They solve problems quickly. They adapt to new situations faster than almost any species we have encountered. And they do not give up. Their history is full of stories about individuals who fought against impossible odds and won. Thalvok watched the human female pause at a junction in the corridor. She looked left and right. Then she did something unexpected. She went up. She climbed the wall using pipes and cables, moving into the maintenance spaces above the ceiling. She's learning our ship, Thalvok said. She's been aboard for 6 hours, and she's already learning how to navigate it. Humans are explorers, Commander. They have mapped every corner of their own world. They have sent machines to other planets in their system. They are driven by curiosity. They cannot look at a closed door without wanting to open it. An explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered. Thalvok gripped his chair for balance. What was that? She has reached the engineering section. She has damaged one of the power lines. Damaged? How would she know which line to damage? She may not have known, Commander. She may be testing, learning what each system does by breaking it and watching what happens. Another explosion. The ship shuddered again. On the security screens, they could see smoke filling the corridors near engineering. She's creating chaos, the science officer said. Confusion. She's forcing us to react to her instead of the other way around. Thalvok made a decision. All guards to engineering section. Full weapons. Shoot to disable. I want her alive. Commander, are you sure that is wise? Perhaps we should. I want her alive, Thalvok repeated. I want to understand how a single creature from a primitive world can do this. I want to study her. But as he watched the screens, as he saw his guards move toward the engineering section while the human female slipped away through the maintenance tunnels, moving toward a completely different part of the ship, Thalvok began to wonder if studying her was even possible. How do you study something that refuses to be caught? On the screen, Yuna dropped from a ceiling hatch into an empty corridor. She paused for a moment, checking her weapons, counting her remaining shots. Then she moved forward with purpose. She was not running away. She was not trying to escape. She was heading toward the prisoner. Holding area dot, she was going back for the others. Thalvok felt a chill pass through his body. This human was not fighting to save herself. She was fighting to save creatures she had met only hours ago. Creatures from other worlds who were not her people, Not her family. Nothing to her at all. What kind of creature does this? He asked quietly. The science officer did not have an answer, but deep in the ship, moving through shadows and fire, Yuna knew the answer. She was doing this because it was right. Because the weak deserved protection. Because her grandmother had walked through snow to survive. And her mother had worked until her hands bled to build a better life. And her father had taught her that strength meant nothing if you did not use it to help others. She was doing this because she was human. And humans did not leave anyone behind. Part 5. The message. The harvester ship was quiet now. The fighting had ended. The Valkyrie crew were locked in their own cells, guarded by the same prisoners they had captured. The universe had turned upside down in the span of a single night. Yuna sat in the commander's chair on the bridge. Her body was a map of pain. Cuts covered her arms. A bruise darkened half her face. Her shoulder throbbed where she had hit the wall. She had not slept in over 20 hours, but she was alive. They were all alive. Well, most of them. 17 prisoners had died in the fighting. Yuna had learned their names from the others, and she had written each name down on a piece of metal she found in the maintenance room. She would not forget them. They had died fighting for freedom, and that meant something. Mole stood beside her, looking at the control panels with wonder. "You did it," Mole said. "You actually did it. You freed us all." "We did it together," Yuna said. "You fought. All of you fought. We learned from you. Without you, we would still be in those cells, waiting to be sold." Yuna thought about this. She had not done anything special. She had just done what any human would do. What her grandmother would have done. What her mother and father would have done. What billions of humans had done throughout history when faced with darkness. She had refused to give up. The communication panel on the console began to flash. One of the glass-skinned prisoners, who had figured out how to read the Valkyrie symbols, turned to Yuna with worry in its 3 eyes. "A message is coming in," it said. "From the Valkyrie homeworld. They want to speak with Commander Thelvok." Yuna felt something cold settle in her stomach. The Valkyrie Empire would notice when their ship went silent. They would send other ships to investigate. They would come looking for answers. She had 2 choices. She could run and hide, take this ship as far from the Empire as possible, and hope they never found her. Or she could do something else. Something that her grandmother would have called crazy. Something that her father would have called brave. "Answer it," she said. The glass-skinned prisoner pressed a symbol. The viewing screen flickered and changed. A face appeared, gray and sharp like all Volthori, but older, more worn. This was someone with power. "Commander Thelvok," the face said. "You have missed 3 scheduled reports. Explain yourself." Yuna stood up from the commander's chair. She walked forward until she stood directly in front of the screen. The Valkyrie on the other end stared at her with confusion. "Who are you?" it demanded. "Where's Commander Thelvok?" "My name is Park Yuna," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "I am from a planet called Earth. Your commander is alive, but he is no longer in charge of this ship." "I am." Silence. The Valkyrie's black eyes widened. You are a prisoner, a slave. This is impossible." "It is not impossible. It has happened. Your commander made a mistake. He chose to hunt my world. He chose me as a target. He did not understand what he was taking." The Valkyrie leaned forward. "You are one small creature. What threat can you possibly pose to the Valkyrie Empire?" Yuna smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Let me tell you about my world," she said. "We have been at war with ourselves for 10,000 years. We have killed each other in numbers too large to count. We have invented weapons that can burn cities to ash in a single heartbeat. We have walked through every kind of hell you can imagine, and we have survived. She stepped closer to the screen. Our world tries to kill us every day. The ground shakes and swallows our buildings. The sky sends storms that destroy everything in their path. The oceans rise and fall and drown our cities. Diseases sweep through us like fire. And still we survive. Still we grow stronger. Still we refuse to die. The Valkyrie said nothing. Its black eyes were fixed on her face. Your commander thought I was weak because I was crying when he took me. He did not understand. I was crying because my dog died. A small creature that I loved. And when that creature died, I felt pain. Real pain. Deep pain. But pain does not break us. Pain makes us angry. Pain makes us dangerous. She raised her hand and pointed at the screen. I am keeping this ship. I am freeing every prisoner on board. And I am going to send a message to every slave in your empire. I am going to tell them what I have done. I am going to tell them that the Valkyrie can be beaten. I am going to teach them how to fight. You cannot do this. The Empire will crush you. We have thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. Maybe, Yuna said, maybe you will stop me. Maybe you will kill me. But before you do, I will free as many slaves as I can. And each one of them will learn what I have learned. That they do not have to accept their chains. That they can fight back. That the Valkyrie are not gods. They are just creatures like any other. They can be hurt. They can be killed. They can be defeated. She lowered her hand. My people have a saying. Where there is life, there is hope. You have filled your empire with slaves, with living creatures who dream of freedom. And now I am going to turn that dream into action. Every slave world, every prison ship, every market where you buy and sell people. I am coming for all of them. The Valkyrie's face twisted with rage. You are one human, one small, weak, primitive creature. You will fail, perhaps. But I will not fail alone. My world has billions of humans. Billions of people who fight the way I fight. Who think the way I think. Who refuse to give up the way I refuse to give up. And someday, they will come looking for me. They will find out what you have been doing to the species of this galaxy. And when they do, she paused, smiled again. When they do, you will learn why nothing survives on Earth unless we allow it. She reached out and ended the transmission. The bridge was silent. The freed prisoners stared at her with something in their eyes that had not been there before. It was not just gratitude. It was something else. Something that Yuna recognized from her grandmother's stories. It was Hope. Mole moved to stand beside her. What do we do now? Yuna looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there were slave ships and prison planets and creatures crying in the darkness, waiting for someone to save them. She thought about her grandmother walking through snow, her mother building a life from nothing, her father teaching her to never give up. She thought about Bomi, her little dog, who had died 3 days ago. She had loved him so much. She had cried for him on that mountain path, never knowing that her life was about to change forever. She was not crying now. She had work to do. Now, she said, we find the others. The ones who are still in chains. The ones who have lost hope. We find them, and we free them, and we teach them how to fight. She sat back down in the commander's chair. Her chair now. And then, she said, we show the galaxy what happens when you choose the wrong species to hunt. The ship turned toward the stars. The engines hummed with power. And in the heart of that great metal beast, surrounded by creatures she had saved, Park Yuna began her war. A war for freedom. A war for the weak. A war that would spread across the galaxy like fire. All because the Valkyrie had made one simple mistake. They had chosen a human as a target, and humans never stay down. The end. Part 4. The uprising Juno reached the prisoner holding area covered in smoke and sweat. Her muscles burned. Her lungs ached. She had run and fought and climbed for what felt like hours. But she was not finished. Not yet. The holding area had 12 cells. She had been kept in one of them. Now she stood in the control room outside, studying the panels that covered the walls. Strange symbols glowed on every surface. Nothing was written in any language she knew, but she had been watching, listening, learning. She pressed a symbol that looked like an open door. Nothing happened. She pressed another. A light turned on somewhere. She pressed a third. All 12 cell doors slid open at once. Creatures poured out into the corridor. They were scared and confused. Some of them saw Yuna and screamed. They thought she was another guard, another enemy. She held up her empty hands and spoke slowly. I am a prisoner like you. I am here to help. Follow me if you want to be free. Mole was the first to approach. The large furred creature moved on shaking legs, its wet eyes fixed on Yuna's face. You came back, Mole said. You escaped, but you came back. Why? Because I could not leave you here. But we are nothing to you. We are strangers. We are not even the same species. Yuna thought about this. On her world, people helped strangers all the time. They pulled drowning swimmers from the ocean. They ran into burning buildings to save children they had never met. They gave blood to fill the veins of people whose names they would never know. On my world, she said, we believe that all lives have value. Not just the lives of our own kind. All lives. She did not have time to explain more. Guards would come soon. She had to move. Listen to me, she said loudly. I cannot carry you all to safety. You must help yourselves. But I can teach you. I can show you how to fight. Will you learn? Most of the prisoners stared at her in silence. They had never fought anything in their lives. The idea was as strange to them as flying without wings, but some of them stepped forward. A glass-skinned being with 3 eyes. A creature covered in scales that reflected the light. A small being that floated slightly above the floor, its body made of something like thick mist. We will learn, the glass-skinned being said. Show us. Yuna picked up one of her extra weapons. She held it out so everyone could see. This is a weapon. You point this end at the enemy. You hold it like this. You press this part to make it fire. Do not point it at yourself or at each other. She handed the weapon to the glass-skinned being. It took the weapon with shaking hands. I am scared, it admitted. Good. Fear keeps you alert. Fear tells you that danger is real. But do not let fear freeze you. When fear comes, breathe. Then move. Then fight. She handed out more weapons. Not everyone took one. Some creatures were too afraid. Some had bodies that could not hold weapons at all. But by the end, she had armed 15 prisoners. Stay together, she said. Watch each other's backs. If one of you falls, the others keep fighting. If you get separated, find a place to hide. I will come for you. How do you know you will survive? Mole asked. Yuna smiled. It was the same smile her grandmother used to wear when telling stories about the war. A smile that knew pain but refused to give in to it. I do not know, she said. But I will try. That is all any of us can do. They moved through the ship like a river finding its way through rocks. Yuna led from the front, her weapons ready. Behind her came the armed prisoners. Behind them came the others, the ones who could not fight, the ones who could only run. They met guards in the corridors. The fighting was terrible and fast. Yuna dropped the first one before it could raise its weapon. The glass-skinned being shot the second one, its 3 eyes wide with shock at what it had done. The scaled creature tackled a third guard to the floor while Mole, Gentle Mole, who had never hurt anyone, brought down a fire suppression canister on its head. Prisoners fell too. The glass-skinned being took a shot to the arm and could not fight anymore. Two of the floating creatures dissolved when struck by weapons, their misty bodies scattering like smoke and wind. But they kept moving. They kept fighting. Una felt something growing in her chest as she fought. It was pride. Not pride in herself, but pride in these creatures who had never known violence, who had come from peaceful worlds where nothing tried to kill them. They were terrified. They were clumsy. They made mistakes. But they did not stop. They did not give up. They were learning what humans had learned long ago, that survival is not given. It is taken. It is fought for. It is earned with blood and pain and the refusal to lie down. They reached the bridge after what felt like an eternity. The doors were thick and locked. Guards were firing at them from behind barricades. 3 more prisoners fell. Una looked at the door. She looked at the guards. She looked at the prisoners who remained. "We need to get through that door," she said. "The controls for the ship are inside. If we take the bridge, we take the ship." "How?" Mole asked. "We cannot break through." Una studied the wall beside the door. She saw power cables running through it. She remembered the explosion she had caused in the engineering section. She remembered how the ship had shuddered when power was cut. "I have an idea," she said. "Keep the guards busy. Give me 1 minute." She climbed. Her fingers found holes in the wall, in the ceiling, in places that were never meant to be climbed. She moved through a maintenance hatch and into the space above the corridor. The cables were there, thick and humming with power. She had no tools. She had only her weapon's dot. She fired into the cables. The explosion threw her backward. She hit the wall hard. Her ears rang. Her vision went white. But when she blinked and the world came back, she saw that the bridge door was open. The power was dead. The locks had failed. She dropped back down into the corridor. Blood ran from a cut on her face. Her shoulder screamed with pain. But she was still standing. "Now," she said. "Through the door. All of you. Now." They charged through the open door. The bridge was dark and full of smoke. Valkyrie officers stumbled in confusion, blinded by the sudden darkness. The prisoners fired. They fought. They screamed with fear and rage and something that might have been joy. When the smoke cleared, the bridge belonged to them. Commander Thelvok lay on the floor, wounded but alive. Una stood over him, her weapon pointed at his face. "This ship is ours now," she said. "Your crew will surrender or they will die. Choose." Thelvok stared up at her. This small creature, this soft, weak being from a primitive world. She had done the impossible. She had turned prey into predators. She had taken his ship with a handful of slaves and her own 2 hands. "What are you?" He whispered "Yun," a thought about to question. She thought about her grandmother walking through snow, her mother working until dawn, her father teaching her to shoot, her brother running marathons in the mountains. Billions of humans all across the earth, surviving and fighting and never giving up. "I am human," she said, "and this is what we do." Outside the bridge windows, the stars burned cold and bright. The ship drifted in the darkness, waiting for new orders. And in the heart of that ship, surrounded by creatures she had saved, Park Una began to plan her next move. The Valkyrie Empire was vast. It had enslaved thousands of worlds. It had hunted across the galaxy for 3,000 years. Dada had never met anything like her, but it was about to.